Hello and welcome to the Ruslan Bilov channel. Today we will discuss the situation in Ukraine as of July 25, 2025. A huge number of very important and interesting events occurred today. Before we begin, I would sincerely ask you to subscribe to the channel. Your subscription helps the channel grow. Thank you to everyone who has subscribed. We have now entered the crucial part of the special military operation, or more precisely, the summer campaign of 2025. We are standing at the threshold of a culmination point. Right now, everything will be decided, especially how the situation will continue to unfold along the entire front line. In short, the general battle is at its peak. We are at the climax. Naturally, we are primarily referring to the town of Pokrovsk and the Pokrovsk agglomeration. The culminating moment arrived at the very hour and minute when the Russian Ministry of Defense announced that the Center military group had successfully cleared two key settlements in the Pokrovsk direction, Novo Economic Noi and Zverevo. Both settlements lie along the Pokrovsk agglomeration, one on the northeastern flank and the other on the southwestern flank. Let's start with the northeastern flank, near Novo Economic Noi. This is how the maps look by the end of July 25, 2025. Just yesterday, this area looked very different. Most of the territories east and north of Novo Economic Noi were considered contested as there was no confirmed evidence that Russian units had entered the settlement. But in the evening of July 24th, very reliable Russian sources, those directly involved in combat in this direction, reported that Russian troops had fully cleared Novo Economic Noi. They presented a video as proof, showing the process of clearing the town, which by that point had already been largely destroyed. The footage was taken on the western outskirts. We can see a large number of drone strikes. Later, around 6 p.m., perhaps slightly later, the Russian Ministry of Defense confirmed control over both Novo Economic Noi and Zverevo. By the evening, most mapping services updated their maps accordingly. The clearing and securing of Novo Economic Noi marked a critical step. It was the very beginning of the climax in the battle for the Pokrovsk agglomeration. In addition to the official report from the Ministry of Defense, everyone was waiting for footage of objective control. This footage was released in the morning of July 25th, a 1 minute and 29 seconds video showing Russian units clearing the settlement. It started with artillery prep, followed by drone strikes, then the storming of basements and buildings. Russian assault troops then entered the town. In the final part of the video, we see Russian soldiers occupying partially destroyed buildings and raising the Russian flag. In one scene, two Russian soldiers exit a church holding the Russian flag. This church was geolocated to confirm the footage. At least the southern part of the town is confirmed under Russian control. Later, more buildings from the video were geolocated. One more flag was raised slightly westward, likely at a school on the outskirts. Another flag was raised in the southern part, closer to Myrnohrad, so in total 3 flags, 3 different locations. Looking at these 3 points, it appears that the Russian army has secured the southern and central areas of the town. Later, the Ukrainian side published their own footage, showing a series of FPV drone strikes on Russian positions in the eastern part of Novo Economic Noi. To sum up, Novo Economic Noi is either fully cleared or about to be cleared by Russian forces. There is still a possibility that isolated Ukrainian units remain inside some basements or buildings, but Russian troops are expected to finish mopping up soon. Novo Economic Noi is now behind them, and Russian forces are planning their next moves westward toward the town of Myrnohrad and the Komsomolskaya mine. That mine is the next key objective, along with a series of strongpoints located west of Novo Economic Noi and east of Myrnohrad. All of these strongpoints are marked on the map. There are many of them, and they will be key for advancing on Myrnohrad. We also received interesting footage from the northern outskirts of Myrnohrad. These show air-dropped bombs hitting Ukrainian positions. This suggests that the Russian army might not attack westward from Novo Economic Noi through all these strongpoints. Instead, there is a high chance the Russian military will attack Myrnohrad from the direction of Krasny Liman. Previously, we talked about Russian forces moving into Rodinskoe, Krasny Liman, and the Krasnolimanskaya mine. Attacking from the north, where Ukraine lacks strong defenses, could catch them off guard and force Ukrainian troops to retreat toward the town and evacuation routes. As of today, we can say the northeastern part of the Pokrovsk front has collapsed. We'll keep watching how the situation develops. It seems likely the battle for Pokrovsk will be swift. Russian forces are not planning to stop. Now to the town of Pokrovsk itself. In its vicinity, Russian troops have cleared Zverevo. This was reported in the latest Russian Ministry of Defense briefing. Unlike Novo Economic Noi, no footage of objective control from Zverevo has been published yet. No videos or images of Russian soldiers in the town or raising flags. Still, maps have been updated in favor of the Russian side. It appears that the southwestern front of Pokrovsk and the agglomeration has also collapsed. But this direction is very different from the northeastern flank. In the northeast, the regular Russian army is pushing through and storming towns. In the southwest, it's mostly Russian reconnaissance and sabotage groups operating. Despite being small, they have broken through Ukraine's weak defenses in that area. Today, several pro-Russian analysts noted that Russian reconnaissance groups are already operating freely in the heart of Pokrovsk, near the railway line. Reliable sources report that these groups have entered the railway zone, including the station, and now control it. It's unclear what level of control this is. Perhaps there are traps or ambushes laid for Ukrainian troops trying to retake the area. But for now, Ukraine has not been able to reassert control. This information is extremely important because the railway is the strategic core of Pokrovsk. Controlling it means controlling the movement of Ukrainian troops between the northern and southern parts of the town. Pokrovsk is divided in half by this railway line. The space between the northern and southern sections is wide, in some places 110 to 200 meters, and in the western area up to 500 meters. These 500 meters are what the Ukrainian army must cross to redeploy troops from north to south. And of course, moving through open terrain from north to south along the railway line is quite an adventure. And now that this railway is crawling with Russian saboteurs, such a mission is sometimes impossible. There's a high probability that the Ukrainian side did not anticipate this maneuver. Control over the railway effectively means full control over the southern part of Pokrovsk. In fact, controlling the railway allows the Russian army to completely cut off the supply lines to the Ukrainian garrison, likely a sizable one, located in the southern citadel. That is, in the very part where the Ukrainian side expected attacks to come and where they had managed to dig in and prepare quite seriously. But as we can see, the situation is unfolding in such a way that not a single shot may be fired at the Pokrovsk citadel at all. The Ukrainian army might be forced to retreat simply due to a prolonged lack of supplies. Nevertheless, the Russian army continues to pressure Ukrainian positions in the southern part of Pokrovsk. In this footage, we can see regular strikes on the district using both aerial bombs and heavy flamethrower systems, like the TOS-1 Cvk. Overall, the situation here is becoming extremely critical. Once again, today Pokrovsk sees confirmed control over the southwestern parts of Zverev, advancement in Leontovichi, and further progress in Troyandi. But the most important news is that Russian special reconnaissance and sabotage units have taken control of the territory along the railway in Pokrovsk. This essentially cuts off the southern part of Pokrovsk from the mainland. We will see how this situation continues to unfold. One thing is clear: if this success holds, the Russian army will not stop. It will keep reinforcing the southwestern and central areas of Pokrovsk with new recon sabotage groups, while the main forces will gradually advance from Zverev further northeast toward Leontovichi and Troyandi to fully clear and secure them. Moreover, the offensive from the northeast and southwest is not the only active axis. Today, some experts noted heightened Russian activity near the town of Myrnohrad. Some fairly reliable pro-Russian cartographers have even published updated maps suggesting that Russian forces are already approaching the outskirts of Myrnohrad. The southern part of the town is reportedly under intense fire control. A large volume of footage shows Russian air and artillery strikes, including multiple launch rocket systems, targeting this southern section. Many drones are also active here. There may soon be an advance on this sector as well. The Russian army might launch an assault on Pokrovsk from 3 directions: southwest, southeast, and northeast. According to Zelensky, the situation in Pokrovsk remains stable. He claims the Russian sabotage groups that entered the city are being hunted down by Ukrainian forces, but such claims are hard to believe. Moreover, there are now reports that Ukrainian authorities have announced a mandatory evacuation of the town of Dobropilya. This is not just a voluntary evacuation, it's mandatory. According to open sources, there are still at least 1,000 children in Dobropilya. All these civilians and families will be evacuated soon. Dobropilya will be completely cleared of civilians so the Ukrainian army can occupy it and potentially begin preparing defensive lines in the northwestern part of the Donetsk region. If Pokrovsk falls, it will be extremely difficult to predict what comes next. There is a very high probability that the fall of Pokrovsk could trigger the collapse of the entire Ukrainian defensive line, allowing the Russian army to advance deeper into Ukrainian territory at an accelerated pace. But aside from these active zones, we must not forget the situation around Civk, which also remains extremely dire. Every day, various videos and footage emerge showing strikes on Ukrainian positions. The town itself, warehouses, temporary deployment points, and UAV command centers. Civk is being hit hard. Every day we speculate that the artillery preparation might already be underway and that Russian units could soon appear on the eastern edge of the town. But the next day comes, and the assault doesn't begin. Still, Ukrainian units in this area are under constant stress, and most importantly, under constant expectation of a full-scale assault, which seems inevitable. The question is only when. Will it happen in July, at the end of July, early August, or perhaps later in August? Additionally, the Russian army is actively advancing in the Zaporizhzhia sector. There has been a slight update here. Over the past 2 days, new maps have shown Russian progress toward the town of Steppnhersk. And the biggest news, today some pro-Ukrainian sources confirmed that Russian troops managed to enter the southern outskirts of Steppnhersk. Reportedly, they reached the 3rd micro-district, located south of a small water divide. Later, a few photos were published, possibly showing Russian losses during the assault. There is no video confirmation or coordinates yet. But in any case, the information has been widely confirmed. Yes, there was an assault, and yes, Russian troops managed to enter the 3rd micro-district. However, it remains unclear whether they were able to hold their positions. We may soon see new map updates, and perhaps even the village of Plavny, south of Steppnhersk, will come under full Russian control. Reports suggest that the situation here is extremely difficult for Ukrainian units. And overall, the broader impression is that Ukraine is now facing serious problems with reserves and resources. It seems there are simply no more free hands, no spare soldiers to stabilize even a single sector of the front, let alone the entire line. This, of course, impacts the Ukrainian army as a whole, the protests still ongoing in Kiev, the uncertainty around weapons supplies, and the broader unpredictability of what lies ahead. In addition, today the Russian Ministry of Defense released a very interesting report. According to it, in just the past week, Russia destroyed 4 Patriot missile launchers and 1 ANMP Q-65 radar, which is part of the Patriot air defense system. Ukraine had requested 15 units, 4 are now gone. That's nearly 1/3. And clearly, at this rate, no one will be willing to continue supplying Ukraine, because nothing is being manufactured quickly enough to replace what is being lost along the entire line of contact. And that's all for now, dear friends. Thank you for watching. Make sure to subscribe to the channel, leave a like, and all the best to you.